Hey everyone, so this video is a quick guide on how to contribute to documentation for our open source projects. Right now I'm on the ACH project, but everything I'm about to show you applies to all of our other open source projects as well. So each project has two documentation components, the README and a GitHub Pages site. The README acts as a quick start guide, and the doc site expands on content in the README and goes into a little bit more detail about use cases and potential questions that you might have. We don't follow a strict style guide for documentation, but we do aim for consistency. So just try to make sure that any contributions are as consistent with the existing documentation as possible, and then you should be good. We're also open to all kinds of contributions, whether that's fixing a typo or a link, or adding a completely new page or section. So each docs file is written in Markdown, and it's a good idea to preview the Markdown file before submitting any changes, since sometimes the formatting can be off, and it's always just a good idea to look at that final rendered product. So one way to do that is through VS Code, and you can just open up a Markdown file, and this is all built in. So you just click on this preview button at the top right, and that's going to open up a preview tab, and this is where you can check out what that Markdown is going to look like. Another way to do it is through the Github Ui itself. So for any Markdown file, you're going to see this pencil icon. If you click on it, it's going to open up the editing view, and then you can click on this preview tab to view all of that rendered content. So one way to make contributions very quickly is just to edit through the GitHub UI itself. So for example, for the README, you can just go over here to this editing file page and then make some changes. So let me just put test here for the purpose of this video. And then once you finish making your changes, scroll down to this section right here. So create a commit message that's going to describe what you changed in just a few words. So I can say adding a small change. And of course this will be more specific when you make an actual change. And then the last thing you want to do is make sure that you have this selected, create a new branch, and then the name of it is going to be auto-generated. Feel free to change that to something more specific too. And then once that's done, just click on commit changes. This is going to take you to a page where you can open up a pull request, and you don't really need to add anything else to the PR description. It's going to pull your commit message and then autofill it. And then you can just submit it by clicking create pull request, this green button. I'm not going to actually click it because this of course is just a test, but once you do that, our team is going to receive a notification of your submission and review it. We usually get back to you within the same day, but if you'd like an even faster response, feel free to ping us on Slack. There's going to be a link to our Slack channel in the description below. So like I mentioned earlier, the other piece of documentation for all of our projects is the doc site. And you can access these sites by going to moov-io.github.io/project name. So this is the ACH doc site. As you can see, we have all these different files on the table of contents sidebar. And this is kind of our complete documentation. So the README kind of pulls from this documentation. These sites are built with Jekyll, which is a static site generator, and they use a slightly customized version of a theme called Bulma. If you want to edit the theme itself, you can go to that project page as well and then submit a PR. So all of the files for these sites are located under the docs folder in the project's main directory, and that's up here, right over here. So these are all of the Markdown files that you see on the site. And the process to contributing to these is pretty similar to what I just showed for the README. One thing to note though is if you're adding a brand new documentation page, you also need to add it to the table of contents sidebar, which is under docs-menu.yaml. So all you have to do is add the name of the button on the sidebar and then whatever it's going to link to. Another thing to keep in mind for adding a new file is that each one has a front matter section at the top, and that's divided by those 3 dashes. So just make sure to have this section. You can just copy and paste it from an existing file, and then make sure to change the title. So at that point you should be good. Just submit your PR as I showed before, and we'll review it pretty quickly. So that's all I've got for this video. If you have any questions, just reach out to us or leave a comment down below. And thanks for checking out Moov Open Source. We look forward to any contributions that you might make to our documentation for any of our open source projects.